Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we had not yet started the mantra. An introduction we had done to Ishavasya Upanishad of why Shankara is criticizing karmas. This was we tried to discuss in the last class. And in that context, we went back to the Gita, the text where he speaks of two kinds of nishtas, two kinds of attitudes. And the first one is called Sankhya Buddhi, which arises from the conviction of the reality, conviction of the Atman, that the Atman is beyond all kinds of changes. This realization that the Atman has no death, has no decay, this realization is called, and the attitude that comes from that is called Sankhya Buddhi. The conviction that arises from the knowledge of reality. And this is what is talked about in the first verse. And then the next one is, if you don't have that, you should resort to what is called Yoga Buddhi. And this is talked about in the second verse, which is Purvan Neveha Karmani Jijivishet Shadam Samah. So there is that in the Gita also in the third chapter, there is that famous verse, Lokesmin Vividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Mayanaka Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yogina. Asmin Loge, in this world, Vividha Nishtha, two kinds of paths. Nishtha means you stick to a path with determination, with perseverance. That is called Nishtha. Two kinds of paths has been taught. I have taught to this world. Pura, in the beginning of creation itself, I have taught it. I have revealed these two paths to the purified minds of the rishis. Maya Anagha, O purified, O one who is without sin, O Arjuna, you who are without sin. In the beginning of creation itself, I have revealed these two paths. What is that? What are those two paths? Jnana Yogena Sankhyana. For the discriminative ones, those who are more evolved, those who have got highly discriminative minds. Jnana Yogena Sankhyana. For Sankhyas, the path of Jnana Yoga. Karma Yogena Yogina. For the yogis, the path of Karma Yoga. The same thing is talked about here. So I will come to, first we will discuss the first mantra, and before that I will also discuss something that Swamiji says regarding the first three mantras. But before that, every Upanishad has got what is called a Shanti mantra. The Shanti mantra, in fact, encapsulates the mood of the Upanishad. What is the mood of the Upanishad that the Shanti mantra tries to portray? It contains, in short, the essence of what the Upanishad wants to convey. So, in this Ishavasya Upanishad, the Shanti mantra is Om Purnamada Purnamidam. So, it is Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamaevavashishyate. पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now it is told Adaha Purnam. Adaha means that. It's a pronoun that is used, Ada Shabdam. It is the neuter gender. Pradamaya Vadaram. That, when we say that which is this and that, two words are used. Normally, this is used for that which is tangible to the senses, and that is used for that which is not tangible to the senses, which exists beyond. So here, when we say Adaha Purnam, and what is that beyond? Beyond means that Brahman, that the causal aspect of Brahman. Now, we see the reality, we told Brahman is the reality of the universe. That which grows and that which helps other things to grow. Now that reality, there are three levels. The first is the Stula Sukshma Karana. And beyond that is the reality, the reality that is not tainted with any upadhis or conditions, the unconditioned truth. That is that Brahman who is without any upadhi, who is untainted with anything, is called the Turiya, the fourth state. Then that becomes covered as such with ignorance, associated. Some taint seems to have come on it. It is our experience. In fact, it is untainted, but it has been associated with a kind of shroud or a veil or a kind of mist or anything we can say. Something has covered it, that the fullness of it has been as if enshrouded, as if covered, as if veiled. And that Brahman plus that veil of ignorance is called Karana Sharira, Ishvara, Maya. All these things are told about it. Then comes the Karya Brahman. Then the effect, all the effects in this universe has come out of this Karana Sharira. What are the effects? Both at the level of the ideas and at the level of this body, the mind as well as the senses. So Karya Brahman means this body, this mind. This is how it is. We can think about it in this way. The ocean of consciousness, abstract ocean of consciousness, Satchidananda is Brahman. It becomes associated with Maya, avidya, ignorance. Then it becomes Karana Brahman. And Brahman in this state associated with Maya is called Ishvara, who is the creator, preserver and destroyer of this universe. In the next state is the cosmic eye. The eye that is everywhere. I exist everywhere in this universe. That is called the Sutratma, the Hiranyagarbha. The eye that is identified with all minds in this universe, that permeates all minds in this universe. That permeates all life forces in this universe. That is Hiranyagarbha, or the golden wombed one. Because it is the golden wombed means out of this, the whole universe, whatever we know as thought forms and whatever we know as gross material forms have emerged. So this is called the what is called the Karya Brahma, the cosmic eye that permeates all thoughts. Then again there is the form that permeates all material forms, that is the Viratma. That identifies with all forms in this universe, material forms in this universe. So these are called the manifestations of Brahman. First is the untouched, the Brahman that is untouched by anything, no Maya, no Avidya, nothing. That is Avidya. Then it becomes associated, as it were, with Maya, delusion, or Avidya, and that is Ishvara. And the next stage is the Karya Brahman, which is the cosmic eye that identifies with. On one stage, it identifies with all intellects, all eye forms. Wherever there is eye, this cosmic eye is there as the permeating reality there. This is the first, that what is called Hiranyagarbha. And what is the attribute? That is the attribute of, and we experience in our daily life, we partake of these attributes of Brahman always. In the waking state, when we are, we do our daily activities, we interact with different people. This Virat Atma is there as the permeating reality. That is why Swamiji says, why do you go to temples and worship? Worship the visible God, the Virat God, the Virat God, the God that exists in everybody, that identifies with all physical forms. When Swamiji says that this is also the philosophy behind serving people, giving food to a hungry man, giving clothes, giving clothings to people who don't have those things, those items. All this is the worship of what Swamiji calls the Virat Atman, the eye that identifies itself with all physical forms. Not only forms in this world, in all the worlds, or wherever there is forms, any kind of forms. There is one Atman permeating all forms, and that is the Virat Atman. At the next level is, at the mental level, there are three reality at the level of the intellect, at the level of the mind, at the level of the vital force. So, it is subtler, more pervasive, and more inner. That is the philosophy behind it. That is the most external, the least pervasive, and the gross is the physical body. When we grow at the inner, subtler than this, more inner and more pervasive is what is called the level of the prana. At this level also there are two things, the individual microcosm and the macrocosm, the individual and the cosmic. So what is that? The prana, the vital force. There is this prana that is vibrating in me. Swamiji says that which moves our lungs, not the air that we breathe in, but that which, the power that expands our lungs. It's a unitary power, that is prana. And there is a cosmic prana. All these are what is called that Brahman, aspects of Brahman, the Karya Brahman. So, this is the second level. That is the level of the prana, the individual as well as the cosmic. Internal to this, more subtle and more pervasive, is the level of the mind, the manas. That is the manomaya kosha. This also, there is the individual as well as the cosmic. More internal to this, more inner, more pervasive, more internal, more subtle, more pervasive, is what is called the level of the intellect, the I. The feeling of the I is that the pure I, that I exist. This also two levels, the individual as well as the cosmic, what is called the Hiranyagarbha, the Sutratma, all these things. This is the Karya Brahman, the Brahman that is manifest at the level of thought and at the level of action, at the level of the forms, material forms. Next is what is called the more internal to this, more subtle, more pervasive, is what is called the Karana Sharira. This is the Karya Brahman is this. So, and that is the Karana Sharira, which is Ishvara, Maya. And what is its characteristic? It is Ananda. And we experience this Karana Sharira when? In deep sleep. When we sleep peacefully, there is no I even. We do not, only we remember that we slept very well, that is all. But it is more a kind of reflection of our existence. We must have been there because I feel so refreshed and I am the same person that went to sleep. So I must have been the person sleeping and I was experiencing bliss, Ananda. And that cosmic, that is the individual, and the cosmic is what is called Ishvara. In fact, the Vedanta will say that in Sushupti, the object of your experience is Ishvara. That is what they say. You are experiencing bliss. And then, beyond that even is what is called Brahman, the Nirupadika Brahman, that is the unconditioned Brahman, where the Karana and Karya, nothing is there. There is no material, no matter, no mind, no bliss even. That is, it is bliss. It is the very essence of bliss. But bliss does not exist there as an object to be enjoyed. It is the eternal experiencer. So these are the states. These are the aspects of Brahman. So when we say Purnamada, that is Brahman. That Nirupadika Brahman, that which exists beyond all thoughts, words and causes, that is Brahman. Purnamidam. Idam means what is experienced by us. At the level of thoughts or at the level of forms. That this also, this that we experience, this world that we experience, that also is Purna, complete, perfect in itself. Purnat Purnamudachyade. From that Purna Brahman, that causal Brahman, that is Purna, this has come out. Through the Upadhi of Maya, we told that this whole world has emerged. This world at the level of thoughts and the level of material forms. Purnat Purnamudachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya. This Purna, this world that we see is Purna. It is Brahman itself that is appearing as this whole universe. Through Vidya, through the Upanishadic, from the Upanishadic texts, we have to understand that whatever we are experiencing is Purna. The Purnatva of Brahman alone we are experiencing. The completeness and perfection of Brahman alone we are experiencing. Through the Vedic, through the study of these Upanishadic texts, we have to understand this. So, Purnasya Purnamadaya. By assimilating that Purna, the Purnatva of this Karya Brahman, of this world that we are experiencing, that through Vidya, having assimilated that, what remains? Purnameva avashishyate. The perfection alone remains. This is the mantra. Ataha Purnam. Karanarupe avasthita Brahma Purna. This is eta ग्रंथो आचे उपनिषद ग्रंथावली बोले गंभीरानंद स्वामी द्वारा लिखित ওইটা খুব ভালো গ্রন্থ আছে এটা খুব সরল ভাবে সব অর্থ দেওয়া হয়েছে अधः पूर्णम अधः माने उहा परोक्ष रूपे व कारण रूपे अवस्थित ब्रह्म पूर्ण इदम इदम मीन नाम रूपे अवस्थित सोपाधिक ब्रह्म पूर्ण. So that is another. This, when we say, we mean two things, names and forms. What are forms? The whole universe is said to be names and forms. What are forms? Forms of experience. We experience forms. We experience, say, forms, smells that we odor that we take in through the nose. They are one kind of forms. Then again there are tactile forms. We taste things. That is a form. Then we see forms, visual forms. Then again that is touch forms through that we experience as sensations through touch. That is also a kind of forms. And then there is audio forms, that which we hear. All these are forms of experience. The whole universe can be generalized into these. All the forms that we experience can be generalized into this group. Then there is, and we give a name to it. All these forms, we can give them a name. That is why they are called names and forms. So, idam. So, whatever we experience is therefore generalized in Vedanta as belonging to the class of names and forms, nama rupa. Idam nama rupa avastita sopadik brahma purnam. Purnat Purnaswarup karanatmaka brahma hoite purnam. Purnaswarup karyatmak brahma udachyate. Udgadohon. So, Purnat Purnam Udachyate. From Brahman, that is the uncaused Brahman, all these names and forms have emerged. Purnasya Karyatmaka Brahme Purnam Adaya Vidya Sahaye Grahan Kurile. through Vidya, through Brahma Vidya, we take this world that we experience. It is Purna. That Purnatva of that we have to assimilate through Vidya. Grahan Kurle आत्मस्वरूपे एकरसत्व संपादन कोरिले अर्थात अविद्या दूर कोरिले. That is ekarasattva, the homogeneity, the homogeneous state that everywhere the same thing, the same bliss, the same ananda is experienced. There is no that is homogeneity. Ekarasattva संपादन कोरिलेट अर्थात अविद्या दूर कोरिलेट पूर्णमेव केवल ब्रह्मोई अवशिष्यते अवशिष्टता के. Brahman alone remains. Nothing else remains. The world does not remain as a residue. That is the important thing. The world does not exist as apart from Brahman. Purnameva avashishyate. For instance, when we say 5 minus 3, 2 remains. So if we take out Brahman from the world, does anything remain of the world? Does any residue in the form of the world remain? No. When Brahman is taken out, the world also vanishes. So that is what Purnameva avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So Shanti is told 3 times. It means the Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika. Shanti. That is Adhyatmika Shanti means, Shanti doesn't mean that there are 3 kinds of peace. Shanti means peace, P-E-A-C-E. There are 3 things that are the cause of Ashanti. The cause of disturbances are 3 things. It can arise at the level of this physical body in the form of diseases. This is called Adhyatmika Ashanti. It can cause disturbances at the mental or the physical level due to some kind of a disease. So this is one cause of Ashanti, one cause of disturbance. Then there is the Adhidaivika, like the divine causes of disturbances. Like there is a kind of lightning strikes something, because of lightning something catches fire. Or there is catastrophes like floods, hurricanes. All these are Adhidaivika Ashanti, divine causes of disturbances. Then there is Adhibhautika Ashanti, that is causes of disturbance like those caused by wild animals, snakes, or even we can say human beings who are animal-like human beings. All these are Adhibhautika, causes of Adhibhautika Ashanti. So Om Shanti 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 means let all these disturbances be quelled. In fact, it should actually be interpreted like, in spite of all these disturbances, because as long as we are in this human body, these kind of disturbances has to come. It will come. There will never be a time when none of these disturbances will not afflict anybody. These disturbances will always be there. But in spite of these disturbances, we should be able to carry on our spiritual practices. And the prayer is for that. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Uha अर्थात परब्रह्म पूर्णो. इहाओ अर्थात नामरूपस्थ ब्रह्मो पूर्णो. पूर्ण होइते पूर्ण उद्गत होन. पूर्णे अर्थात कार्य ब्रह्मे पूर्णत्व ग्रहण करिले. पूर्णोई अर्थात परब्रह्मोई मात्र अवशिष्ट थाके. पूर्णोई अवशिष्ट थाके. अपूर्णत्व किच्छुई थाके ना. Everything goes away. Om Trivida Vigner Shanti. That is, this is the Shanti mantra. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam. Om Purnamadaha, that is Purna. The causal Brahman is Purna. Purnamidam, this is Purna. This world that consists of names and forms is Purna. Purna Purnamudachyate. From that Brahman which is Purna, these names and forms that we experience, which is also Purna, complete, has emerged. Purnasya Purnamadaya, of these names and forms which is Purna. Purnamadaya, by accepting that Purnatva through knowledge, through Vidya. Purnameva avashishyate. What remains is the completeness of Brahman alone. No apurnatva, no incompleteness, nothing else remains. Any word. So this is the first mantra. Now we will go to the first mantra. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kimcha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Gunjithaha Ma Ghrithaha Kasya Svit Dhanam. So, Jagatyam is Saptami, in this world, in this Prithivya, and Prithvi is taken to be representative of not this world, wherever life forms exist, in this world, in the heavens, in the hells, wherever, whatever worlds are there, because that is the Indian world view, that there are 7 worlds. It is told, Bhur, Bhuva, Suvaha, Maha, Jana, Tapas, Satyam. These are the 7 worlds. Our world is the Bhu world. Higher than this is the Bhuva, higher than that is the Suva, Maha, Jana, Tapas, Satyam. And again 7 nether worlds are also told. We need not go into that. So this 7 worlds. So here it is told. So when it is told Jagatya, it means wherever life forms are there. Wherever Stavara Jangamatmagam Namarupa. Stavara means that which is immoving life forms, like plants, etc. These are called Stavara. And Jangama is that which can move, life forms that can move, that are both mobile and immobile. So Jagatya, in this universe, in this Brahmanda, whatever life forms exist, Jagatyam Yatkincha, whatever, Yatkinjit Jaha Kichu Jagat Anitya Charachara Vikari Vastu Samu. Jagat means Gacchati iti Jagat, that which moves. Anything that moves in the whole universe. Jakichu Ache, whatever is there, whatever is moving or whatever living forms are there in this whole universe, Tat Sarvam Idam Isha Niyanta Parameshware Dwara Jaha Hoite Paramatmar Atma Hoite Abhinna Paramatmar Dwara Vasyam Achadaniyam Tena Tyaktena Tyagadvara Gunchitaha ईश्वर भावना अवलंबन पूर्वक गुंचिताः आत्मा के पालन करो. कस्य स्वित् काहारो धनम मा घृतः आकांक्षा करियो न अथवा मा घृतः. कस्य स्वित् धनम, धन आबार काहार, अर्थात काहारो नोहे. So this is the Idam Jagatya, in this universe, whatever moving or non-moving living forms are there, tat sarvam isha vasyam, idam isha, that all of that should be covered with Ishvara. This is the first half of the verse. Then the next verse is Tena Tyaktena Munjita. Through this Tyaga, Tyakta means that which is given up. Je eta amar dwara tyakta hoya che mane, I have given this up. So I will say it is Tyakta. So Tena Tyaktena Bunjithaha. Bunjithaha means there is a verb called Bhuja. Bhuj Dhatu is the verbal root called Bhuj. It means two things. One, it means taking food, and it also means protecting. In both these senses, that verb is used. Now, here in Sanskrit, there are verbs can be used in two forms. One is, it is called Parasmepadi and Atmanepadi. Atmanepadi is when that the result of the verb is for somebody else. Normally, that is the general rule that is told. It is Parasmepadi is used. For instance, I am doing some kind of action for somebody else. Then that verb will take a Parasmepadi form. And when I do the verbs for myself, it takes an Atmanepadi form. This is the general rule. So here this Bhuj Dhatu has got an Atmanepadi form. So it is, and and also it is an instruction given to the sadhaka. So Tena Tyaktena. So again here Tyakta should means that Shankara will say in his commentary that Tyakta means actually Tyaga. It doesn't mean that because a thing that is given up, you cannot protect yourself with the help of anything that is given up. It is the very act of giving up that is meant here. So, Tena Tyagena Bunjita. Through this giving up, you protect yourself. You is the subject there, you protect yourself. Bunjithaha. It is an Atmanepadi verb where the subject is Tvam. You protect yourself. Tvam Bunjithaha. You protect yourself. How? Tyaktena. So Tyaktena should be slightly modified to mean Tena Tyagena Bunjithaha. Through this sacrifice. What is the sacrifice? Through this giving up, you should protect yourself. What is this giving up? This giving up, as we mentioned in the first half of the verse, Isha Vasyam Idam, covering everything with God. This meaning we will make clear. I will read for Swamiji's, what Swami Vivekananda is telling about it, then the meaning will be clear. First, I am just discussing the bare outline of the verse, the bare outline of the meaning of the verse. So, Tena Tyagena Bunjidaha, you protect yourself. Ma Gritaha, Kasya Svedhanam. So, now the last half of the verse, that is Ma Gritha. Ma is a element of negation. It is used for negating a thing. Ma, don't. We say that is called Ma. Ma Gritaha. Gritaha means don't be greedy. Don't desire. Ma Gritaha. Kasyasvik dhanam. Kasyasvik means anybody's wealth don't desire. This is the protect yourself with that renunciation and don't desire anybody's wealth. Or it can be split the Ma Grita Kasyasvik dhanam into two parts. Ma Gritaha. Don't desire. Kasyasvik dhanam. Does wealth belong to anybody? It neither belongs to me or you. Swamiji says that all the men in the world are only shopkeepers. Wealth belongs to God only. So that idea is coming. Either you connect the whole thing into a single phrase Ma Ghritak Kasyasvit Dhanam, don't desire anybody's wealth, or you say Ma Ghritaha, don't desire anybody's desire. Why? Because wealth does not belong to anybody. It does not belong either to you or to me. So this is the first verse. So now, according to Shankara, this is the entire. He sums up this meaning of this mantra like this: the whole world is covered with God. Cover the whole world with God. Deify this whole universe by covering it with God. Whatever is moving or non-moving in this whole world, everything you cover with the one God, that is your own self, your own Atma, your own innermost reality, you cover everything with it. And this covering of everything with God is called Tyaga. And don't desire anybody's wealth. So, in the first verse he says, then he says that in the first he gives up, the highest teaching is given, Upanishadic teaching is given in the first sentence. And in the first half of the second half of the verse. In the second half of the verse, there are two parts, the first part and the second part. In the first part, the instruction is given for sannyasa, tena tyagena mujjita. You give up everything. That is how you should give up everything. Don't have anything for yourself. You have covered everything with God, nothing else remains. So, this is the injunction for sannyasa. This is what Shankara says. Then the next he says, and what is a sannyasin's dharma? That is told in the last half of the verse. Ma Ghritak Kasyasvit Dhanam. He should not desire to possess anything. Now, we will go to what Swamiji says in this. God in his the name of this lecture is God in everything. So he says that this, all religions, I will read it first. This life in the five senses, life in the material world is not all. It is only a small portion and merely superficial. Behind and beyond, this life in the senses is the infinite, in which there is no more evil. The Vedanta calls it Brahman. That is, this life in the five senses is full of evil. Every religion teaches this. Vedanta also says the same thing. And behind and beyond this is what the Vedantins call Brahman. Now he says all religions proposes to, though they present it, they tend to get a little carried away by the idea of giving up and without understanding it properly. This is what Swamiji is telling. The Vedanta says that what all the religions advance is perfectly true, but it should be properly understood. Often it is misunderstood because the religions are not very clear in their meaning. The combination of heart and head is what we want. Let everyone have an infinite amount of heart and feeling, and at the same time an infinite amount of reason. So, what he is telling, every religion is carried away by the feelings. The reason, the part of reason also we have to develop. And Vedanta, both are the part of aspect of reason and the aspect of feeling. Both are developed, cultivated. So giving up of the world. What do we mean by giving up the world? Swamiji says Vedanta means by the phrase giving up the world as deification of the world and not its denunciation of the world. Vedanta doesn't denounce the world, it deifies the world. So giving up means the deification of the world, not its denunciation. The world is not something bad. It is God. We should know it as God. That is what Vedanta means. This is the first point that Swamiji makes. Deification of the world, giving up the world as we think of it, as we know it, as it appears to us, and to know what it really is. Deify it. It is God alone. We read at the commencement of one of the oldest of the Upanishads, whatever exists in this universe is to be covered with the Lord. And then Swamiji, in his own inspired words, he says, in life and in death, in happiness and in misery, the Lord is equally present. The whole world is full of the Lord. Open your eyes and see Him. The whole world is full of the Lord. Open your eyes and see Him. This is what Vedanta teaches. Give up the world which you have conjectured, because your conjecture was based upon a very partial experience, upon very poor reasoning, and upon your own weakness. That is what. Give up the world which you are. So when you say giving up, what does it mean? Giving up the world which you have conjectured, which you have imagined. Because that imagination is based on three reasons Swamiji is advancing. It is based upon a very partial experience. This world that we experience, Swamiji says based on partial experience. What does it mean, partial experience? Because we come into a world, say a person is maximum 60, 70 years back. His memory becomes active, say only by the time of say 2 years, 3 years, and then also all the details there also he doesn't correctly remember. After he has become say 5 years, and many things escape our comprehension. So our experience is very partial. Many things we forget. Whatever things were important to us in our childhood, after 1 or 2 years, they become unimportant, and we even wonder how we came to like those things. We imagine. So that is what it is. The world that we have conjectured is based upon a very partial experience. Then it is based upon very poor reasoning. That is what. That is another fact that Swamiji is telling. The reasoning, this body, that there is that verse in the Mahabharata where the Yudhishthira is telling this mantra. The greatest, what is the greatest wonder in this world? When there is one, it is called, that portion is called the Yaksha Prashna. The questions that the mysterious being asks Yudhishthira, and he has to answer it correctly, then only his dead brothers and mother will be revived. So, the one question that he asks is, what is the greatest miracle in this world? Wonder in this world? Then Yudhishthira says, Ahanyahani bhutani gachanti yama mandiram sheshat chiratvam icchanti kimascharyamatah param. Ahanyahani bhutani gachanti yama mandiram. Every day people are dying and going to the world of the departed. Shesha, but every one of them thinks that they are going to live eternally. This is the greatest wonder. So that is what. This is also is a poor reasoning. We see this body is going to die, we know. But still we want to preserve this body. We think it is going to live forever. We make plans, everything. So this is what is called the poor reasoning. In fact, if we go to the Brahma Sutras, they say that the I and the you is mixed up. Who is the I? The eternal subject, consciousness. In that I is mixed up all the attributes of you. What is the attributes of you means? The body, the mind. Everything that is not I is the you. Everything that is not the true self, the pure consciousness is you. That is mixed up with this I. And we take it to be the real. That is, the I can never be the you. Consciousness and matter are totally different things, things that are totally opposed to each other. This is reason. Pure reason tells us that whatever is matter can never be consciousness. The I must be separate from all of these. But what happens is the fact of experience is so deep rooted and so powerful that this voice of reason is muted. We can never follow this reasoning to its logical conclusion. That's the tragedy of human life. The reason tells us that consciousness is different from all these things, that all these things are matter and has a beginning and an end. The fact of experience is so deep rooted that it vitiates this reason. It vitiates this. That is, it is more powerful than reason and it overpowers reason. That is what Swamiji means here by our reasoning is by poor reasoning. That is, to take this body and the mind as real is poor reasoning. It is only because of poor reasoning we take them to be real. And then upon your own weaknesses. And upon that is the reasoning, poor reasoning being, because the fact of experience is overpowering us. That is our own weakness. Give it up. The world we have been thinking of so long, the world to which we have been clinging so long is a false world of our own creation. Give that up. Open your eyes and see that as such it never existed. It was a dream, Maya. What existed was the Lord Himself. It is He, the Lord, who is in the child, in the wife and in the husband. It is He who is in the good and in the bad. He is in the sin and in the sinner. He is in the life and in death. So, this is what we say when the first mantra is the whole world is full of the Lord. Open your eyes and see Him. Give up the world which you have conjectured because it is based upon partial experience, poor reasoning and our own weaknesses. Open your eyes and see that as such this world never existed. Means that it exists only as God. That everything else that is not God was a dream. And what does it mean? He is in the child, in the wife and in the husband. It is He who is in the good and in the bad. He is in the sin and in the sinner. He is in life and in death. This is the opening theme. Now, Swamiji says, does this mean that we have to turn our back on all kinds of experience, go to a forest and sit in meditation? No. If God is in everything, what does it mean? The consequences of this also Swamiji is telling. What it means is, to quote Swamiji, God is in the wealth that you enjoy. He is in the desire that rises in your mind. He is in the things you buy to satisfy your desire. We want to buy something to satisfy our desire. We should have the feeling God is present in that desire. We need not feel guilty about those desires. This is one part of transforming our desires, of deifying those desires. He is in the things you buy to satisfy your desire. He is in your beautiful attire, in your beautiful ornaments. This is the line of thought. All will be metamorphosed, transformed, as soon as you begin to see things in that light. So, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, this is the meaning that Swamiji is giving. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Tena Tyaktena, what does this Tyaga mean? This is the meaning. See God in the desire. God is in the wealth that you enjoy. He is in the desire that rises in your mind. He is in the things you buy to satisfy your desire. He is in your beautiful attire, in your beautiful ornaments. This is the line of thought. All will be metamorphosed as soon as you begin to see things in that light. So you see, there is a practical implication. Shankara is talking from the standpoint of the ideal. Now, this is one thing that is told by some thinkers on this subject, that Shankara is talking about that there are two kinds of Vedantic approaches to the reality. One is neti neti, not this, not this. That you give up everything, give up everything. And this actually only the sannyasins can practice. But there is another part of Vedanta, the immanence of Brahman. Of course, Brahman is transcendent, but it is also immanent. It permeates creation. So, iti, whatever exists is God. So, Swamiji is telling that iti aspect, that whatever exists is God. This is more suitable for householders to practice. So, Swamiji is extending the relevance of the sloka to everybody, not only sannyasins, to householders also. Anybody can practice this. A student can practice this, a householder can practice it, an elderly person can practice it. And that is to see God in everything. The Vedanta proves that the truth for which we have been searching all this time is present and was all the time with us. In our ignorance, we thought we had lost it and went about the world crying and weeping, struggling to find the truth, while all along it was dwelling in our own hearts. There alone can we find it. That we are searching for the truth here and there, going to a forest, sitting in meditation. No, it is not here, it is here. We have to transform our thoughts. It takes some hard work to realize this. But whatever situation we are in, from there alone we have to start. We have to start the process of transformation. Whatever state we are in, we have to, what Swamiji has told, we have to do that and start the process of transformation. And that process is, the truth that we are at the beginning, the basic thing we have to accept from the very beginning is that the truth we are seeking is present in our own hearts. It is not existing somewhere far distant or in some temples or somewhere else. Now Swamiji says the giving of the world is normally understood in its crude sense. So when you say giving up what, you will become like lumps of earth, idle, without doing any work. Now he says, no, this is not what is meant. When you say that when you cover everything with God, you sit without doing any work, no. Again, there is the other extreme. The ordinary man works propelled by false desires, by his own feelings and senses. This is the other extreme. On one side is you don't do any work. The other side, you go on doing works propelled by your own desires. No. Then what? He works who is not propelled by his own desires, by any selfishness whatsoever. He works who has nothing to gain from work. This is the very important point. So, here when Swamiji, this is also a difference. You will find when Shankara is telling that karma has to be given up, Swamiji is here telling, it's like saying, it is not that one person is negating the other. It is like seeing a glass as half full of water. We can see it as half full or half empty. Both are true. So like that it is. Here, Shankara is highlighting one aspect of the realization of truth. Swamiji is highlighting another aspect. And the life, and it is more relevant to us in this age, in this the present circumstances of life. It is Swamiji's ideas are more relevant, becomes more suitable. So he says he works who is not propelled by his own desires. by any selfishness whatsoever. So you work without any selfish motive. That is also a part of the first mantra. He works who has nothing to gain from work. Swamiji gives two examples. He says one person is selling a picture. An auction is being held, a picture is being sold. Now there are two persons there. One is the seller, the person who is selling the pictures. And the other is one person who has no intention of buying or selling. He has come there just to see the pictures. Now the person who has come to see the pictures, he enjoys the process. While the seller is always tense. He is hearing the auction, that hammer, that the auctioneer announces the bids. The bids are announced and the bids are made, it is made higher and higher. And the seller's mind is always occupied with this bids. What are the bids being offered? How are the bids? How are the amounts being raised? All this. So he cannot enjoy the picture. But the seer, the person who has come there to see the picture, really enjoys it. So this whole universe is a picture. And when these desires have vanished, men will enjoy the world. And then this buying and selling and these foolish ideas of possession will be ended. These ideas of possession will be ended. The money lender gone, the buyer gone, the seller gone. This world remains the picture, a beautiful painting. So, this world, when we have got rid of these desires, everything will be beautiful for us, all this whole universe, because we don't want anything from this universe. At that stage, so it's everything appears as beautiful to us, Swamiji says. When we have given up desires, then alone shall we be able to read and enjoy this universe of God. Then everything will become deified. Then everything will become divine. So this is the first verse that Swamiji is talking about. To see, to cover everything, that God is present in everything, to see that He is present in the desire. He is present in the beautiful things that we want. This is how we practice the idea in this verse. But at the same time, we should understand that there is the love, intense love for the ideal there. Without that love for the ideal, we cannot practice this. The ideal should be the most important thing in our life. Then only we can practice this, that He is present in the things that we love, all these things. So we should understand the ideal and then we can practice this. So I think this is what Swamiji says. The first part, the first mantra, that is Swamiji's explanation of the first mantra is explained. Shankara's explanation we will take up in the next class. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.